We have a room full of golf fans who are eager to hear your perspective on the world of golf, and welcome back to New York.
Yeah, well, it was just, oops.
I was a banker and a golfer, not a media guy. I was just thinking, I often get applause before I speak, but rarely afterwards. So thank you for that. It is great to be home. If the IRS, my home is Florida, but if you're in the golf world, it's definitely the Met area. It sets the benchmark for everybody. I never have been good enough to qualify for playing an MGA event, but I've worked a lot as a caddy for my son, and so I've seen it from inside the ropes. Those that can't teach, right? And so I've witnessed firsthand the quality of this place, and he's played nationally, and there's no better tournaments in the country than the Met area. You should be really proud of yourself, so it's great to be here.
Well, thank you again. So to jump right in, we all know there's been a golf boom. Can you tell us a little bit about what's been going on at the PGA of America, especially reflecting on the year that was of 2021?
Yeah, well, it's a long story, right? And I tend to make long stories really long, so I apologize. But when it first hit, and having been through the banking world in New York, and lived through losing a building in 9/11, and then the financial crisis, it wasn't my first kind of rodeo in this regard, but this one was obviously very different. We, like everybody, shut down, sort of panicked. Golf got shut down a lot with everything else. And then we sort of picked ourselves up and said, at the end of the day, golf is something that can be part of the solution, not the problem. That it's got natural, we were sort of trying to save jobs and do all the things that everybody else was trying to do, but you also realize that if any one of us kind of put a bag on our shoulder and walked at an empty golf course, that would be a walk in the park, would be pretty safe, right? And so I sort of challenged, we hired some, as everybody else did, infectious disease experts, and I said, well, this is my idea, what do you think? And they said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They introduced us to Fauci. Dr. Fauci, met him, and he wasn't a golfer, but he said, yeah, actually that makes sense. And we introduced you to CDC, and I went there sort of thinking that, you get this bureaucracy and you get lost in it all. And I sort of walked them through the same thing, and I said, isn't this what people need? I know that's what I need. I've got 5 kids, and I'm going nuts. And I'm tired of working in my bedroom. I need some relief. And so they said, yeah, that's a great idea. So we came up with the idea to do this sort of the 3 stages of return in the same way that they had sort of stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. First, no caddies, 10-minute intervals, meet in the parking lot, blah blah blah, and kicked it off. And we rallied the whole industry around one plan, so it wasn't competing plans. Went to the States, did all kinds of things to kind of get us back from a participation standpoint. The other thing that was going on simultaneously is we were trying to figure out the whole golf ecosystem of the scheduling. How does that work? How does, if you think about it, the tour owns none of the majors. Jay Monahan understands the importance of the majors and was trying to put them into the schedule. So we're meeting daily with that crew trying to figure that out. And Jay showed incredible leadership. He was talking about it in May of 20 when everybody was hiding under their tables. He was talking about playing in June, and everybody thought he was crazy, sort of me included, but I was sort of rooting him on and trying to do everything we could, and he got it back, right? And so golf was, first of all, the first thing on television that everybody could watch, so there was that welcome relief, and then in addition, we were able to get participation back going through a program called Back to Golf, which is the thing that I described. So everybody thinks this sort of magical thing happened, and then COVID was great for golf, and it sort of happened. And some of it was very organic, and some of it was also very intentional, which we're proud of as an industry to have been able to pull off. And the key now is how do we sustain that? Right? We've got this incredible boom, and what do we do to make sure that this is sticky? It's sort of like this, we had this boom once when Tiger burst on the scene, kind of had this incredible bubble. There was nothing done to change anything or make it sustainable. built a bunch of golf courses. People bought sets of clubs, kind of put them in their closet, and then played with them twice. Realized how hard it was, and never, sort of played again. And then we had a recession and blah blah blah. And everybody knows the story. So the other thing that we did in sort of July of 20, I called Jay and I called Mike Waugh and I said, look, we have this incredible opportunity, but obligation as well to make this, generational growth. And what do we do as an industry? We all know that, golf's pretty confusing. I can't explain to my mother, the difference between my job and Jay Monahan's job, right? And you've got all USGA, you've got the RNA, you've got PGA of America, you've got the US tour, the European tour, you've got MGA, PGA, et cetera. And so, but we can act like golf fans. We can come together and work together to grow the game and make it look kind of also the obligation socially as well as economically is to make it look a lot more like the rest of the world, right? So that maybe the rest of the world can behave a little bit more like our game. And so we used our convening power, everybody sort of agreed with that, to pull together kind of the industry around equipment companies, Top Golf, all the golf bodies, et cetera, and sort of started this process of putting together a thing. You may see some of the ads called Make Golf Your Thing. That's out of this, right? So there's 6 tracks that are trying to create employment, create supply chain, a marketing group, adult player development, junior player development, all these things that are meant to be, not meant to be, or actually the industry for the first time ever working together to make sure that we sustain this growth. And that's what it's all about. We're up, 40% year over year. Jeff Voorhees is here, his people are exhausted, right? They're working 24/7. It's what we always wanted, and it's great. But now we got to make sure that it lasts, for the next 20 years. And with a totally different group of people that's playing, golf for the first time ever is cool. And it's always been great. Now it's cool.
Well, we've been happy to see all the participation numbers stay up there. And speaking of looking ahead, what are some of your main goals and initiatives in really the next 5 years? And how can all of us, as part of the Met Area Golf community, contribute and help keep that forward momentum of the game?
Well, that's great. And as I said, you're all leaders, so what you do, the country will follow. And I truly believe that in lots of ways. So one of the things that we're struggling with, frankly, is that work-life balance, right? Our professionals, if you think about the game in a downturn, what got squeezed is sort of the labor, right? It wasn't, courses have never been in better shape, F&B's never been better, experience has never been probably better. We haven't hired more people, not paying generally more. Again, the Met is a leader in that front. Let's say you are much better than most parts of the country, but that's definitely the case. And as a result, we've got this labor shortage kind of everywhere in the country right now, and it's true in golf too, and even more so. So our pipeline of juniors coming in, junior people working in the industry is never been sort of lower. And so how do we bump that up? How do we create a better, not only just compensation, but sort of that balance of life? And if you think about professionals, in the Met area, you used to work, 24/7 for sort of 8 months of the year, and then maybe you get to Florida and get to play and recharge and do it again. Now our professionals are as busy in February with the simulators as they are, in August, and so there is no sort of break. And so educating the facilities, I think, is a really important part of what this is about. How do you let people have a life? And I think there's this generational change of, the next generation is not going to put up with sort of what we all did, walking to school uphill in the snow every day, right? And I think that's really a problem. We've sort of switched from a demand problem to a supply problem, and so that's a big deal. And so again, these industry efforts to create that, continue to create that demand, is creating other pressures in other ways. We're really proud of the fact that we announced for the first time, we've been around 125 years, but 6 or 7, we've created a deferred compensation plan, which will create a wealth creation vehicle for all of our professionals. And it's essentially a retirement plan where you will be able to earn pension points, put them away, have them compound over 30 or 40 years, and when they retire, there's actually a nest egg that they can take along with them. We're trying to develop insurance plans that do sort of the same thing, that make it portable. And so we're trying to create that reason for people to come. I think when I sort of grew up, and I played every other sport, not so much golf, but the golf professional always kind of had this exalted position, right? It was sort of you had a lawyer, a doctor, and maybe a high school football coach, and maybe a minister, and then there was a golf professional who was at the center of the community, who had some secret sauce and the ability to hit a 7-iron that was sort of magical. And I think we need to restore that. It's become kind of more of a job, and more of a commodity. And I think we've got to put that professional, frankly, back at the center of the game, because that's where the game starts and where it ends. The thing about the PGA of America is we touch it at every level. We just had the Ryder Cup, so we're obviously at the highest level. Junior league golf, we have clinics for everybody. We have helping veterans every day through our PGA Hope program, et cetera, et cetera. And so, sort of arming them every day to be the army that sort of goes out and grows the game is really important, and that's what we focus on every day. And then being the best partner we can possibly be with all the other bodies and all the other players in the game.
Well, speaking of growing the game and continuing to make it more accessible, from your perspective, how can the sports industry and specifically golf continue to do just that, make the game more accessible for everybody of all backgrounds, and even introduce newcomers?
Yeah, it's one of the real challenges, right? And I think the good news, the good news about golf is there's a lot more ways to consume it than there's ever been, right? There's Top Golf, and that was viewed as a threat at first, but I really view it as a partner. It's sort of a gateway to the game. You look at the growth of par 3 courses around the country, which is extraordinary. I think I sort of look at golf as we should have celebrated consumption in every way. If you go home tonight and sort of putt on your carpet, you kind of play golf that day, right? Certainly, if you play 3 holes or hit some balls on the way home, that's golf. If it's not, if you go shoot hoops in your backyard, you play basketball that day. It doesn't mean you went 5-on-5 with a referee, right? Or the other example, and so we should encourage that consumption in every way. Sometimes, you might want to put in a tie and go have some French food in the city, and other days you're going to want to have a burger, and that's okay. So, there's places that it isn't appropriate, but there's plenty of places where it should be appropriate to, have music on the range and wear your hat backwards, right? And so I think what the key is to sort of think about how do we evolve it. There's so many amazing things about this game. For me, I'll never have the privilege of this job, is that I'll never have a chance to impact more lives than I have right now. My view is that if I can kind of make, we have the largest sports organization on earth, we've got 28,000 professionals. If I can kind of make 28,000 lives better, we can probably make millions of lives better through this game. I don't think there's a better engine for good on the planet than golf, right? It's not just charitable, it's relationships. It's how else do you spend 4 hours with somebody? How else do you have lessons learned? How else do you get the time that I got with my son Clancy on his bag to have that bond? And so, that's what we need to perpetuate, is all those amazing things about golf, but we also have to evolve, right? We have to sort of realize that we can't be our sort of grandparents protecting our grandparents' game. We've got to be out there innovative. We're an $85 billion business. It's going to get disrupted. There's no question about it. And sports everywhere are being disrupted because it's become a great business. Golf is hot, and that's great. It's going to attract a lot of attention, which means people are going to want to change it. You look at this Saudi threat that's going on in the professional world is another example of that. And so, the professional game is responding, and they're going to disrupt internally. I don't know if you've noticed how much the purses have gone up, and et cetera, et cetera. But that disruption is going to happen, and it's going to happen in everything. And we need to be sort of an innovator and sort of benefiting from that disruption as opposed to getting run over by it. And so I think that's how you grow the game. And when you say, when I say I want the game to look more like the rest of the world, so that the world might behave like the game, it's not only the right thing to do, it's the absolute necessity, right? The last time I checked, half the population are women, right? Number one, and number two, in the U.S. next census, 50% of the country is going to be of color. So if you want to have a growth story, and you're not sort of addressing half and half again of the population, you don't have much of a TAM. It's to say in the old world, total addressable market, right? That's bad business. So it is something we're focused on enormously, and as I talked about before, we're now looking at it as an industry because we had all these verticals and we're trying to do the right thing, but there wasn't any unity, there wasn't any kind of traction, except in small local ways that we can get as an industry as an overall. So I'm proud of how the industry is working together. It's very different than it's ever been. I think when I walked into the room, people viewed themselves as competitors, and now I know we view each other as partners.
Well, it seems like there's only good things to come, and in working together for the future and thinking of the future, I know an event that all of us here will be looking forward to is the Ryder Cup coming to Bethpage Black in 2025. Wanted to end on a fun note, so can you tell us a little bit about bringing the Ryder Cup to New York and what we can all expect in a few years?
Yeah. Bring your helmets. The PGA of America has a couple of incredible gifts, right? When it split with the PGA Tour, it took the PGA Championship, and the story goes that the last asset that they were sort of carving up was the Ryder Cup. And the last two things were the World Series of Golf, which was played in Akron, Ohio, and then the Ryder Cup. And the tour had the choice of which one to take, sort of like choosing sides in the playground. And they made the logical choice, which is take the World Series of Golf, right? Because here's this major event, and we're making money off it, we got TV, blah blah blah, this exhibition, and lo and behold, there's been a little role reversal of what that asset is worth, and so it's an incredible asset for us to own. It's also an awesome sort of responsibility, right? Because it gets bigger every year. And my first day on the job was in Paris at the Ryder Cup. Literally, that was my first Monday. Was there, and when you see the jets fly over and you're there, and there's the colors flying. And you go, holy crap, how am I going to compete in Sheboygan with, the Palace of Versailles, right? How do we possibly have something that can, hold a candle to this thing, right? And we did it, right? And we did it in a way that, is, we have an amazing championship group. No offense to the MGA, but Kerry Haig is the best in the world at what he does. He somehow raises the bar, and we did it again. Now we're going to Rome next, which will re-up Sheboygan, and so but we finally get New York, right? And we get one of the most amazing golf courses on the planet with an amazing story. And we will absolutely raise the bar and raise the roof. I do worry about fan behavior a little bit. And the good news about New Yorkers is they're really loud and they're really rude, but they're really funny, right? And so hopefully that will carry the day. But if you've never been to one, the moment of the first tee shot on the first day is absolute bucket list moment. You kind of can't believe how good it is. It's the opposite of every other sporting event, where the final shot, or the final kick, or whatever it is that moment. Whereas the Ryder Cup, it's the anticipation of it all. And it's kind of this combination of a Super Bowl, the Olympics, and maybe a Stones concert, kind of all rolled into one. And you just can't believe the energy, the happiness, the beauty of it. I'll tell you a quick story. So I don't know if anybody's been to Whistling Straits. I'm sure you probably have. But when you come out of the entrance to the clubhouse, there's this little bar on the right-hand side. It's called the Haven, and it's the candy bar. And every day I'm driving past it in my little courtesy car, feel like whatever. And it stole my heart one day because outside it had one of those flip boards, and the flip board said, "Today's soup, whiskey." And so I'm looking at it the whole time thinking, God, those are my people. I gotta say hello at some point. So after it's all over, the champagne's spread, and we've done all the interviews, whatever, it's all happened, and the sun is setting, and my wife Jane and I are leaving Whistling Straits, and I go driving by it, and I pull in, and Jane's going, "What are you doing?" And I go, we're gonna buy a beer. And so we went inside the Haven, and I just ordered a beer, and then somebody kind of recognized me and started having a beer, and then all of a sudden, the whispers are around or whatever, and the whole bar is now cheering USA, USA, screaming, and there was, by the way, there was a Packers-Bears game on, so there was some competition. And so as I'm leaving, I come and pull over the bartender who's the owner, and I said, "Look, can you buy a beer for the bar?" And he said, "Yeah, who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm with the PGA, and I just want to buy a beer for the bar." And he goes, "Okay." So I'm trying to leave, and he stands up on the bar, and he goes, "Hey, the guy, the PGA just bought you all a beer." And they look around, and there's some applause, and then they start screaming, "PGA, PGA." And I said, this is the beauty of this game, right? That I'm having a beer with folks, and the power of the Ryder Cup. It's just tribal and amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens at Bethpage, because there's no better venue on earth than that, and the fans are going to be really interesting.
It will certainly be a fun one, and I'm sure everyone's calendars here are marked. So Seth, thank you again so much for joining us tonight. We're looking forward for more to come, and we appreciate the conversation, and we will be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me.